all of this conversation is basically on the premise that the Ukrainians can't win. And I think that's nonsense.
Last Friday, I thought I detected signs that Volodymyr Zelensky is edging towards a recognition that he might have to sit down and talk about territorial concessions. He was visiting the site of a Russian missile strike in Kyiv, and he said, okay, full unconditional ceasefire first, and then we can talk about everything. He said everything, such as territorial issues. Of course, accepting concessions or agreeing to concessions is one thing, discussing them is something different.
But you put your finger on exactly the issue here, which is cart and horse. The Russians and the Russian-American position is, here are the terms upon which you will agree a ceasefire. And the whole purpose of a ceasefire is to agree the terms of that ceasefire. So it's literally, they've been looking through it through the wrong end of the telescope. And it's interesting that you kind of detected a kind of drift towards a potential concession. I saw it much more in the context of Zelensky continuing to play the Americans, drag this out to the point at which the Europeans and others can fill the gap, the military and intelligence gap and financial gaps that they're facing in Ukraine, so that they can fight on. I mean, what I find really interesting about this, and I'd love to hear your view, is that all of this conversation is basically on the premise that the Ukrainians can't win. And I think that's nonsense. And I've spent a lot of time on the front line in
President
Ukraine.
Trump, in an interview published today, he said, I'm saving that nation, and I think that nation will be crushed very shortly.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know don't we? We know that that's absolute rubbish. I mean, the crushing blow that the Russians tried to deal in the beginning of the war in 2022 was turned around, and I've met lots of them. Most of them now are dead. Young men, middle-aged men, leapt into pickup trucks and took on these Russian convoys and turned them round. And that was with one hand, both hands tied behind their backs in terms of military supplies. They still, and we've seen recently the efficacy of the F-16s with the French missiles that have been very effective in hitting command and control structures of the Russians. If they continue to do that, they can break the back of the Russian army.
So, Sam, you think Ukraine can win?
I know Ukraine can win. I mean, I'm absolutely sure of it. Yeah, I think it's extraordinary how, and it happens in the media, doesn't it? We're all prattling on about a ceasefire when the terms of the ceasefire are preposterous. There's absolutely no chance of a ceasefire. But Putin's ceasefire proposal for May the 8th is absolute hogwash, and yet we're preoccupied by it.
Why is he offering it then?
To waste our time.
It's not to protect Moscow from his
No.
parade,
I mean, he's doing it.
He's not attacked by it.
No, I mean, Trump he hasn't thrown his toys out the cot. He's just made a little bit of a remark. And in order to continue the play act that there's any kind of difference between their positions, Putin has responded to the kind of meaningless, limp-wristed threats from the White House. Oh, we might increase some sanctions, or we might be slightly meaner to you. Trump hasn't said we're going to flood the place with long-range missiles or tanks, and we're going to help the Ukrainians smash you up if you don't come to the ceasefire. He's completely bogus threats and a bogus response from Putin.
So you say Putin is wasting our time. It can also be argued that it has Donald Trump in mind, where he says, look, we are a peaceful nation. We're being constructive. We're ceasing fire. We are serious about wanting peace. Do you think Donald Trump will listen? Will he agree with that, change his mind?
No, I think it's a play-acting piece of dialogue. Donald Trump says, oh, you've been naughty. And Putin says, oh, I feel a little naughty. I'll spend a little bit of time on the naughty step. And that's all for us to talk about. I don't think that there's any difference in their position whatsoever. I don't think Donald Trump wants any particular concessions out of Putin. And I don't think Putin's going to give them. It's play-acting.
In terms of President Trump's intentions, though, Sam, people who are close to him all say he genuinely wants to stop the killing. And he himself keeps on saying that, I want to stop the killing.
I think he is sort of offended in his weird way by death and horridness. And there might well be a kind of motive there ticking away that he'd make it want to go away. But I think more broadly, he is acting in lockstep with the Kremlin, perhaps because he wants to see a world kind of divided up into spheres of influence, or maybe he's just mesmerized by Vladimir Putin. He's had a long relationship with Russia, after all.